Welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to switch gears and start working with Active Directory and the Active Directory module for PowerShell. Now, some of my first exposure to PowerShell had really nothing to do with a lot of the previous chapters. I mean, it kind of did, but I didn't know at the time what a lot of those key concepts were. But it did have everything to do with managing users, specifically automating the management tasks of users to create consistency and reliability. So that came with using the Active Directory module, and it has numerous commandlets that allow us to manage users, groups, computers, and more within Active Directory. So in this unit, we're going to explore more than just using these tools, but how to develop small scripts that create massive leverage for us as systems engineers. Moreover, as the course progresses, I should say, into security and cloud concepts, many of the examples we will focus on will be related to Active Directory. So before we start working with it directly in PowerShell, you may be thinking, hey, I don't have an environment to do this in. So we're going to actually build an environment, our own domain controller with Active Directory. We're going to use Oracle VirtualBox to do that. And all of this is totally free. You can get the ISO for Windows Server 2022 for free on a trial basis to use. I think it gives you something crazy like 6 months. And then also, like I said, the Oracle VirtualBox, which is also for free. So let's go ahead and move on into the next lesson to set up that domain controller. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We're now going to switch gears, as I mentioned in the intro, to installing our Windows Server 2022 test environment. And actually, we don't need VirtualBox first on that. We need our ISO for Windows Server 2022. You can find this on Microsoft's Evaluation Center website. I do have the URL right there. ENUS, Eval Center. File the rest of that there. So let's go ahead and click on download the ISO. And it's going to want us to input some information there. Ooh, am I going to dox my phone number? I don't think so. I'm sure you guys could Google it. I'm sure it's just sitting somewhere. All right. Oh, country code, Afghanistan. All right. Perfect. All right. I'll take the 64-bit edition, English. And I thought before it had... Oh, no, that's when we get to the install. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I would have thought that'd be a little faster given my internet connection, but we'll pause the video, wait for that to download, and then we'll go ahead and download VirtualBox. All right, welcome back. Now we see that this is, not that you left, we see the ISO is downloaded. So let's go ahead and download Oracle VirtualBox and get that installed so we can build our virtual machine for making our test environment. So VirtualBox, Windows host. Perfect. A little bit of a quicker download. Get that installed. All right, we're going to go ahead and click next. Just work our way through this. And we'll install the dependencies. Go ahead and do another pause point on this. Don't need to sit here on this too long. Actually, that didn't take that long. And here we go. We've got it. Now all we need to do is add a virtual machine. I'll put it, I guess I'll just put it in PowerShell Engineer.com folder. Okay. What did I do? Did I not do the right thing? Select a virtual machine file. Oh, because I'm clicking add. I need to click new. Haha. Very good. All right, yeah. I'll just leave those right there. We'll call this Win Server 2022. Let's go up to at least 2 processors if you want it to run well. And we'll go up to 4 gigs of RAM. Create that. That's no problem. All right. Now we need to go to settings. And we go to storage and down here to the disk drive. And we'll choose a disk file. We'll pull that from our downloads. Okay, cool. Now we're good to go ahead and give it a start. That's all you have to do. Really, without the download time, I'd like to point out that we're in pretty good shape here so far, time-wise. And we see that it's loading. We'll fill out our window here. All right, we'll do next. Do install now. I'm going to keep doing some pause points actually, just in case. All right. So we do want the desktop experience, although we could certainly run it without that. And we'll do the standard. All right, we'll go ahead and accept the agreement there. Do a custom install, our 50 gig drive that we made. And we'll go ahead and do another pause point, although things seem to be moving a little quicker than normal, which is great. All right, it's restarting again, super fast. We don't need to boot from that, just so you know. So I didn't edit the settings. Now the thing to do would be to go pull that ISO off the settings, or else I'll do that every time. Not really a huge deal. And if you're like me, I wind up redoing these a lot anyway. So, or I might convert this VM. I mean, you could just easily make a new VM, but I might convert this VM to something else. So, or if you bork the system, which I've certainly done that as well. Let's go ahead and give it another pause while it's loading this screen. All right, it actually rebooted one more time and then just got us back to this. So go ahead and make a password that you're going to remember. And we'll go ahead and do a finish. And bam, we're ready to log in. So on the input, if we go to input keyboard, that's how we'll send our Control-Alt-Delete. And we'll log in with our password that we set earlier. I just turn this on automatically on my VMs. We could try the admin center. We're not going to do that actually for this. Got all these notifications cleared here. So actually what we want to do is go ahead and go to manage and add roles or features. We're going to get Active Directory added on there. And we'll click next. Role based. We're talking about this machine. And what we want is Active Directory domain services. And we'll add everything that it's got with it. We'll click next again. it's going to add .NET, ADDS, and we go ahead and give that an install. And again, everything's been kind of going pretty smoothly, pretty quickly here. I don't even think I'll bother pausing because I don't think it's actually going to take that long. Yeah, actually, I take it back. I'm going to pause. All right. It is good to go now. So that's installed, but you'll notice right here on our notifications that we have some post-deployment configuration. So what we're going to do is go ahead and promote this to a domain controller. And when we do that, we're actually going to add a whole new forest. And we're going to name that Hogwarts.org. And here is where we're going to wait for it to load. All right, now we're back. Let's do, I don't know why that took so long. Actually, I think if you guys just click on this while it's doing that loading thing, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but when I just clicked on it, it seemed to load. Like, I don't know why it was doing that, but we're good to go. Set a password. All these settings are fine. Oh yeah, we won't get that delegation, and we've got to create the NetBIOS name. I believe it should auto-populate that. Yep, Hogwarts. It's good. Looks good. Verifying the prerequisites. This also might take a little bit. Actually, while we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and try to up our display resolution here. It's a little bit better. Keep that. Let's see if we go. There we go. That's more what I'm looking for. There we go. Okay, we got some warnings here, but everything completed. Sorry, I keep trying to, I don't know why it keeps resetting this, guys. Oh, here, we'll get that off of there. All right, so we'll go ahead and do an install. I'll keep toying with the window here. All right, so because it's not quite perfect to what I've got here, I'll have to like scroll up and down. It's not a huge deal. All right, so wrapped up. It's about ready to restart. We'll go ahead and let it restart. We will let it. It's not telling us. At this point, I assume you've probably already paused the video a bunch of times because, yeah, for whatever reason, setting up the roles and enabling Active Directory, I mean, it's like almost taking as long, if not longer, than to download, make the VM, and install Windows. It's kind of wild. All right, we're getting close here. All right, so it's loaded finally, and go ahead and do a Control-Alt-Delete, and we see that we have Hogwarts here as the domain that we're logging into now that this is a domain controller for our Hogwarts domain. So we'll go ahead and log back in, and I'll scroll down here. And we've got server manager. We don't need that, but just one final thing to check. So we'll search for Active Directory users and computers. Go ahead and pin that there to the taskbar because we'll be checking that when we start making some users and interacting with them via PowerShell. And you'll see it's got some OUs built in automatically. We'll build our own OUs. But if you made it this far, which I assume you have, because absolutely this is just steps you got to follow. It's super easy. I'm sure this was not too hard for you guys. Just annoying waiting for it all to load. But congratulations, you now have your own test domain controller. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to mess around with the Active Directory module. Let's go ahead and give that an open. And let's actually take a look at our properties here. We'll up the font size, as you know I like to do. Modify shortcut. Okay, I don't know what's up with that. You know, weird stuff happens like that on Windows Server, I feel like. All right. And we'll go ahead and move the directory to PowerShell. And guys, I like to keep that stuff in too because I don't want to sugarcoat, hey, you know, weird stuff pops up sometimes. I mean, that's just part of systems management, right? So we've got our admin PowerShell, and let's go ahead and import the Active Directory module. And bam, that is now imported. So we're now able to use those Active Directory commands. That's all you had to do to be able to use them. Now let's go ahead and do the get command to take a look at what is actually in the Active Directory module. As you can see, there's quite a lot. Unlock AD account. We'll be doing that later. Set AD user, setting AD user stuff. Removing all the different remove commands. And you know what's interesting? What I like about this is that, you know, again, commandlets are verb noun. So you can just kind of browse to, it kind of gets you geared more to thinking, what action am I doing? And then what am I doing it on, right? So there's a lot of stuff here. We're certainly not going to go over all of it in our class. Again, we're going to focus on users and groups. So that's it for this lesson. I just want to import it and show you what commands are available or how to take a look at what commands are available. So we'll see you in the next lesson. All right, welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to begin working with organizational units. Now, to create your first organizational unit in your newly minted domain, you can use the new AD organizational unit commandlet, and that'd be new-AD organizational unit. We're going to create a top-level OU to distinguish from default from the default domain OUs that are made automatically in Active Directory, which we've already seen down here, these right here. But we're going to just start off by doing that, not in the GUI, of course, but we're going to do it with PowerShell. So let's go ahead and make a new organizational unit. And I try to do a tab complete there. Yep. And we've completed that out. Name. We're going to call it Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry. Again, that copyright's owned by whoever owns it, not me. Same with all the examples I use. And we'll do the path. Now this is the path within AD. So DC equals Hogwarts. DC equals org. And that should be all we have to do to make that organizational unit. if we go over here and look here, we'll do a refresh. And we see we now have our organizational unit there. So from there, we're going to make more organizational units for the staff, students, and then within students, we're going to make an organizational unit for each of the houses in Hogwarts. So let's go ahead and do that. And what's great about the command history is we can just go up, and now we can place things inside of our new OU, but we'll have to add the OU in the path, right? So HSWW. Now I want to make a staff OU. I want to make a OU. And we can just go double check that those are made by just doing a refresh. We see that those are there now. And then within students, we're going to make one for each house, as I said. So we'll do students, add that to the path. And we will make one for, start with Gryffindor. Hufflepuff. And then Ravenclaw. And of course, Slytherin. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to our Active Directory and check that those are all there. We can drill down this way, actually. And if we look, we now see Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin. Boom. Just that, like that easy. I'm also going to go further back up and make one just called, a top level one called PowerShellEngineer.com. And that's just going to be, so we have, just so we have the PowerShell name in there when we see, when we're working through this stuff. And that will be it for this lesson. You now know how to make organizational units. And again, I'd like to point out how quickly we've come. We have a test server, we've got OUs, we've got a new domain controller, and again, you can do, I'm just doing this on my home computer, right? So very easy to do. And PowerShell makes making these OUs, honestly, I think this is a little simpler, just using the commands. That's a lot of people think they don't want to jump in to the shell, to the command line, but I mean, look how easy that was. I mean, just seconds. I hand typed. I didn't even copy and paste anything. So PowerShell keeps it simple. Gotta love it. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to move on to creating Active Directory users. And we're going to do that with, of course, PowerShell. And we're going to be using the new AD user command. And what we can do actually is do a get help on that just to take a look. We're going to update our help. That's something I should have done right away. I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there though, because you know, that does happen. And if we're all in the same boat here too, I don't like leaving stuff like that out. Sometimes too, I've seen with the get help that we get some failures on that. So don't be surprised if there's some failures coming up. Not everything gets updated. But we're almost through the alphabet here. It's cranking its way through. Perfect. Actually, we didn't get any failures, so that's great. Yeah, so here we are. We have our new AD user help information. Creates an Active Directory user. As you can see, there's a ton of different parameters here that we can work through. You can set commonly used user property values by using the commandlet parameters. You can set property values that are not associated with commandlet parameters by using other attributes parameter. So that's somewhat important if you're going to add parameters not specifically listed in here, or properties, I should say, of the AD user. So, and I like this too, that it's bringing up that you can bring, this is commonly used with comma separated value files, because it certainly is. And also get AD user we'll be using later, of course, remove AD user, set AD user, are some other commands there. So let's go ahead and do a clear. Oops, make sure I'm on the right area there. Clear. And new AD user. And we are operating in the Harry Potter universe. So let's do Harry Potter. And the SAM account name. H Potter. We'll also need a user principal name. We'll just do hpotter@hogwarts.org. Our path, we'll go back to our old OU path there. So we want to put him in Gryffindor. We'll keep it canonical with the movie here. Oh, whoops. OU equals Gryffindor. OU equals students. OU, man, lots of typos here. Org. All right. All right. So for the account password, we're going to put in parens. We're going to use the convert to secure string. So it really doesn't like, it won't accept a plain text password, right? And we'll just do Gryffindor. And plain text we'll have to have. We'll force that just in case it complains. And then finally, we want to make sure the account is enabled. We'll pass that a Boolean true. And bam, there we go. There we have it. Let's go give our AD a check. And there we see our Harry Potter user. None of this information we actually filled out, which is all right. We see our H Potter. And then actually we don't have every, we can't see every property there. So let's go ahead and go to view and do advanced features. And then that way, students will go down to Gryffindor. We get our attribute editor, and that's where we can see there's the distinguished name, the whole OU path there. There's our user principal name. So again, this is where you can see every field possible. And this is kind of what that get help was talking about, that not all of these are parameters, but there are properties that are correlate with a parameter, but you can still certainly use PowerShell to set any of them. So, all right. So that's it for this lesson. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to take a look at the get AD user commandlet. This will be how we get a hold of a AD user and AD user, and to basically evaluate it, do whatever we want to do, take a look at what properties it has set. So we'll go ahead and give that a go, get AD user, and we'll use the identity parameter to specify the username. We'll use our hpotter user, and there you have it. Pops us back the information that we want there about that user. So we can actually get a little more creative. We can use get AD user to utilize filters as well. So say if we just want to get all of our enabled users, we would say enabled equals. We'll go back. We're still using our standard PowerShell operators. And we're going to use the Boolean true. Again, that's why the fundamental stuff way back in chapter 2 or unit 2 was really important. So we get our administrator user and our Harry Potter user, which is pretty sweet. But this being PowerShell, let's go ahead and take a look at setting a variable to a user, right? To take a look at it. So we'll just do AD user is equal to get AD user identity H Potter. If I take a look at my AD user variable, now I have not all the properties, but I have some of the properties inside of this AD user variable of the H Potter user. So we can take a look at some of the properties if we wanted to. Do user principal name. H Potter at Hogwarts. So we can actually do really any of those right there. We can take a look if the user is enabled. And so forth. So very useful, especially if you were building maybe a script that was querying users, or you were trying to find a user. You would capture the user inside of a variable and you could start performing logic on it, right? And that's definitely pretty handy. Now maybe you don't want everything that you see here. You only want some specific properties, or you want some that aren't given by default, right? Because it doesn't give everything by default. So what we would do then is use the get AD user, the identity parameter with H Potter, type that to the select object parameter, or commandlet, I should say, and we'll just get name, SAM account name, and user principal name, I guess. Bam, and that's all we have. So if we were to go ahead and do that same command, just do the up arrow in our command history, AD user is equal to that. And we take a look at our AD user, we'll see that we only have those values. And note too that is in a hash table. So definitely pretty useful to start getting at whatever information you need about a particular user from Active Directory with PowerShell. So that's about it for this lesson. We'll go ahead and see you in the next one. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We're now going to switch gears and start looking at how to set user properties with the set AD user commandlet in PowerShell. And that is actually really simple to use, as you might gather by how easy the other ones are at this point. We'll do a set AD user, and we'll do our identity parameter. And we'll do H Potter again. And basically, depending on the parameter in question, we would just do the name of the property, I should say. It should correlate with the parameter in general, although I don't believe they all do. But certainly email does. So we'll go ahead and do harry.potter@hogwarts.org. And boom, that's set. Let's go ahead and validate that. We could do that with the get AD user, but I just like seeing it with the GUI as well. All right, that's set. Not a big deal. What if we want to go ahead and set more than one property? Well, maybe we goofed up and our naming scheme is wrong. Gosh knows I've done this. Actually, this is why I like writing PowerShell for these kinds of issues right here, to get these types of things formatted correctly. So let's go ahead and do the office phone parameter. And we'll go ahead and do a 800-555-0000 number. Now we're setting two properties at once. Pretty sweet. Go ahead and validate that. We see this change and we set our telephone number. So definitely you don't need to do one-liners over and over again to set the properties. You can, make that all one command. Definitely worth knowing. Another thing we can do with set AD user is enable and disable a user. So let's go ahead and do set AD user. Our identity again. And this time we'll do the dash enabled parameter, and we will do a colon, then provide it with a Boolean. So we'll just say false for enabled, and it takes that command, no problem. Now if we go back here, Harry looks like he's still enabled, but what we need to do is actually right click white space and refresh that. And we see the little down arrow there indicating that he is in fact disabled now. If we double click that, go to account, and we'll see right here, account is disabled. So this is something you may want to do if if you have like an offboarding script, you would set it this way to, you could just have this command ready to go. You could have a disable button or have it as part of a different workflow and disable your users with, potentially one click when they're ready to go. So definitely very cool. We'll go ahead and re-enable a Harry and just triple dog check this is good to go. He's re-enabled. And that is about it for set AD user. Really straightforward. A very, very powerful command. Very useful for automation. So we'll go ahead and see you guys in the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, PowerShell engineers. We are now going to move on to resetting the password for an Active Directory user. And the way we would do that is with the set AD account password commandlet. And we'll do that with the identity parameter, similar to our other commandlets. We'll do a reset parameter right here that doesn't need an argument. Set the new password to convert. String. New password. We'll go ahead and set that string. Go ahead and force that. And let's go ahead and give it a run. All right, so that should be reset. And then what we need to do is actually go back to our set AD user commandlet. Do our identity again. And we need to do the change password at logon. Set that Boolean to true. It will force them to change their password again. Obviously, for security reasons, we wouldn't want to know their password. So give that a set. And then if we go check on our user, okay, let's see what happened here. Password at logon. Oh, I already had it open from earlier. So note too that, yeah, that will not refresh on its own. You'll have to close and reopen it. So actually I already had that open, but that did get set, that checkbox. So remember to close your user when you have them open already. And that should be it for resetting a password for a user in Active Directory. So let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, PowerShell engineers. We are now going to go over how to unlock an Active Directory account. Very straightforward. The classic verb noun with the commandlets will always help you out there, right? So we're going to do unlock AD account. Be me typing if I didn't have a typo, and just a simple command. All right, so just went ahead and unlocked the account. Wasn't actually locked, but that what you would be able to verify it, and this is exactly how you would do it. This is a real straightforward commandlet, and definitely something that, you know, takes a few clicks when you're going through Active Directory. In fact, we can go over that. Right, you'd have to go here, click on Lock Account, and click Apply. So if you had some type of user management tool you were using just for your help desk or for anybody in your team, your technology team, having this be a one click, just typing in a username, thinking maybe with a Windows form, and I might be getting ahead of myself here to the automation and focus section, but that might be a good use case for that. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We're now going to make a new Active Directory group, and then we're going to add our user to that group. So to make a new group, what you do is you use the new AD group commandlet, specify the name of the group with the name parameter. Now we're going to define the path of the group within our Active Directory structure here. Just put this in our students OU. Make our group scope global. All right, now if we go down to Active Directory, check out our students, we see our new Quidditch players group. It's a security group. And it notes that it's a global group as well. So now we just want to add our user to it. And to do that, we will use the add-AD group commandlet. Add AD group member, excuse me. And we always go back to our identity parameter. But this being the identity of the group, not the user. For this particular command, it would be members for the group or for the user, or comma separated for multiple users. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at our user there, and we should see that the Harry Potter user is in the Quidditch players group. So it's really, really that simple to make groups and add groups. And again, we can do the get AD group commandlet. Whoops. Set that to a variable. And we can take a look at the group from the point of view as a PowerShell object. And we can start digging down deeper into this as well. So that is about it for groups. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We are now going to switch gears and take a look at automation and focus for our Active Directory module. So with that, I have a shell of a script that I've already made here that we're going to kind of build out the logic for, so we can take a look at it. I built out the graphical user interface with Windows forms because I didn't want to spend too much time on that. So let's go ahead and open the ISE, and we'll give this an open here. And I was already there. Make this a little smaller here. I'm already zoomed in. Even though we're inside of ISE, let's go ahead and set the execution policy. I've actually done this already. Don't know if it's going to hold up just because it's a Windows server. Sometimes it does something a little bit different. Yes to all for for that. Set it to unrestricted. Let's go ahead and give this a run. And we'll do a run once. And there we have it. We've got our form here. First name, last name, and a combo box with nothing in it. Again, we saw our button logic here. There's no button logic. That's what we're going to build out right now. So all this will be is just a little form to make a user automatically. And let's go ahead and start building out that logic. I do want to point out before we start that, though, I am doing the import module with Active Directory at the top of the script. So that will give us the ability to have the Active Directory commandlets that we need to add the user. So before we actually add the button logic, though, we do need to add our drop downs in the combo box. And the way we do that is the add method, which is a method that can work on the items property. So I want to reference the combo box, and then we'll reference items. And we'll go ahead and reference add. And that should just be about it. So I'll just copy and paste that line 3 more times so we can go ahead and build out the rest of the options. All right, let's go ahead and do a save. Let's see what that looks like. So we still have our default text of combo box. So we might want to get rid of that. Or maybe we can leave it, I don't know. Either way, but we've got our options now. Actually, let's go ahead and blank that out. Give it a save, give it a run. Yep, there we go, that works. That looks a lot better. So I give that a stop there. Now we're going to do a couple of different things here. We want to first capture our text box variables, right? So I want to capture our first name, and I want to just put it in a first name variable, and we'll do text box 1.text. Also want to go ahead and capture the last name, and with that we'll do text box 2. Now we're going to use a method we haven't actually used yet. At least I don't think. I'm going to get the first initial. So the first initial, the first character of the first name. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to say it's equal to the first name, but we're going to use a method called substring. And actually I'm going to bring that back up. Just popping up too quick. So right here you'll see the syntax for using it. The int start index, so this would be the character placement that it'll start. And then, oops, that went away. But the other one is the length. So how many characters of the substring do I want to get? So I'm going to start at place 0 of the first name, and I only want 1 character. So that should get us our first initial. So for the purposes of our just our name, just having the name variable, or yeah, the name property, we'll have our name variable, and I just want that to be first name and plus a space and the last name. So just our full first and last name will be our name. Now our SAM account name. I'm Well, I want that to be, this would be like our username, right? So I want that to be our first initial, but our first initial likely is going to be uppercase. And just in case, just to make sure that it is, we're going to use the to lower method. So we'll do that. Now what that does is it makes the string that the method is being run on, or the object that the method is being run on, takes it down to lowercase. And then we'll do the last name, the full last name. So first initial, last name, do to lower, and same principle there. Now we also want to set our user principal name. That'll just be the SAM account name. Now again, all of these are depending on how you do it in your environment. This is kind of a common format that I've seen. So that's what we're going to go with, right? So we're going to do that. Plus, remember our domain name. Likely this would be your email. Doesn't always line up perfectly like that, right? But we'll do it's.org. We also need where are we putting this user within the Active Directory structure, right? So that would be the path. Path will be equal to u equals, and this is where it gets a little tricky, right? This is where we put our combo box, right? Because this is where we're going to be creating the user, so we're selecting that. And this is sort of this is a piece of the automation, right? You're doing a lot fewer clicks by having the OU selection just be a drop down. So we will do the combo box one.text. Don't forget we're comma separating these, so we do need another comma right here. And then we can go ahead and create the rest of this. Bam, just like that. And we can make a default password, the account password, I guess, for that. Combo box again. Add a string 123. I think that's about all we would absolutely need to start. So let's go ahead, just skip down a line. We're going to want to do our new AD user. Finally, at where we're going to specify or define these parameters, which will get mapped to AD user properties. So our name will just be our name. SAM account name. SAM account name. User principal name. Be our user principal name. Path will be our path. Now, I think all we have left will be the account password. And remember, we're going to do the convert to your string. Password. It's plain text, just like before, and we'll force that. And last but not least, if you remember from when we created our new user, give you a second, what was it? Gotta make sure it's enabled. And to do that, we will set it to a Boolean. So that should be it for the logic. I think that's it. So let's go ahead and give that a run. Yeah, I think we're good. And let's see if we can't make a Drake. And we want to put him in House Slytherin. We have no feedback at all. That's funny. Well, I didn't really think about that. I guess we could have changed the title there. But let's go ahead and check our AD. Didn't complain with any errors, so I think we should be good. And bam, there is our user, Draco Malfoy in Slytherin. And we see D Malfoy worked, so the string to lower worked, which is great. Let's go ahead and change our view options so we can see the advanced features. Whoops, no. Attribute editor. Our user principal name was there. Yep, perfect. And obviously our path worked because Draco is in the right path. And gosh, there's a lot of properties. Oh, yep, we've got our name there. Yeah, I think we're good. Obviously, there were more properties we could set here that we didn't set. You know, we didn't even actually set the first name, last name, um, email. You could set all of that stuff, but uh, you know, we've kept going on this. Obviously, if you're building a full-blown script, that would work. But this is just a simple Windows Forms PowerShell script that just adds users. And you can see how this would really start making things simple if, geez, you know, if you don't remember what the format is of the UPN or the email address, it just does that, does your default password for you every time. So the user is good with that. It keeps it consistent, which may or may not always be a good thing, security folks out there. But yeah, yeah, it's just a really great automation. You know, like I said earlier, I've made this in a lot of organizations I've worked with. A version of this definitely way more complex. Because there's a lot of other things, you know, groups that we want to add by default, and that was something we didn't do here either. That would be super easy to just add to the group if you had a Slytherin group based off of the combo box. You know, you could have corresponding groups with these, even though the group formats. Um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do here. So that is about it for this lesson. Automation with Active Directory, automation in focus. Way to go, PowerShell engineers. We'll see you in the next lesson. Hello and welcome back, fellow PowerShell engineers. We're now going to move on to AI in focus. And as I've alluded to before, formatting of commands is one of my favorite use cases of ChatGPT. I don't want to hunt down every parameter every time I'm writing a script. It is time consuming, and I often find myself scrolling through other people's scripts for examples when I just can't find the right example right away with Google or Stack Overflow or whatever. So let's go ahead and command ChatGPT. Let's have it write a PowerShell command that adds a new user to Active Directory that includes parameters for name, display name, and write it out. Write a PowerShell. All right. Yeah. First name, last name, initials, and email. All right. Classic identifies it as Pearl. All right. Dude, yeah, the interesting thing about this is that it doesn't have a path. Wow. I have a bad example, right? Because it doesn't even have a OU path. All right, let's go ahead and give it a run. Let's say we know that though. This is again why. Okay. Yeah. So where did I put that user? And find it. Disabled John Doe user. Routes users John Doe. Okay. All right. So we didn't specify it. So I didn't put it. Just put our John Doe right here, right? So we'll bring John Doe back to put John Doe and staff maybe, right? It did set these fields. It did do the initials. Got the example with the email there. I mean, actually, Sans not having the path, and really, I didn't tell it to do a path, so I guess that's correct. Um, I thought you would have had to specify that though. So again, reveal my own ignorance on this. Sometimes it's like, hey, I just never run new AD user without a path, right? Normally, I know where I want it to go. We're not just dumping stuff straight into the default users. Uh, so we could go back to our existing code. We do have the parameters here. So let's loop this back, right? This would give us the ability to kind of correct what we were talking about with the automation, and that's sort of my whole point with this was that we didn't have all the names we needed there, all the parameters we needed. So we've got given name, surname, display name, and initials. Oh, and email. So actually, yeah, all of it we need. We already had name. So if we go back to ISE, just dump all those right there. Now we don't want uh, we don't want to do these obviously. So we'll go ahead and do our first name, surname, which would just be our last name, display name, which is actually what we wanted for name, and I just noticed didn't have that. Or we did have it. I actually removed it. And our initials, right? So we'll have to build our initials um, variable. That would just be our first initial. And our last initial, which is not a variable I've made yet. But we can just copy and paste this. Got our last initial. We're doing the same substring off of our last name. Initials. To email. Oh, there's that name from earlier that I just copy and pasted that in the wrong spot. Okay. Email, we can actually just use our user principal name. email. So I won't make a separate variable. That works pretty well. Do squeegee there, even though we don't really need it. Don't want it to run a code selection. I want it to run the whole script. Let's do a Hermione. Gryffindor. Let's see if that complains. No errors down here. So wow. A Gryffindor with all of our fields we talked about on top of the things set earlier, UPN, etc., in the correct OU as well. So yeah, maybe one other thing I would tweak with this is just make the box a little bit bigger. The not the box, the form. That I mean, we can make it as wide as we want. So I just bumped it up 200 pixels there. Yeah, student creator. I don't know. That gives us some real estate here to add some more stuff potentially. But yeah, that way we can read this. We got our drop down. Again, real simple. But what we did there, it's really pretty sweet. We used AI to generate the rest of these parameters off this command. I mean, if you didn't know what this command was, uh, you would have it as well. And this just worked, ready to go. Pretty straightforward text there. Now let's see if we can just recreate our whole process here. I'm going to get a little crazy and let's see if this works. All right. All right. That's really, really specific. Let's see what it gives us. It's thinking. I like it. Maybe. Hopefully it didn't crash. Been a weird phrasing here, actually. Maybe it can't do it. I don't know. I've actually used this to create Windows Forms PowerShell scripts before, and it's actually done it pretty decently. So let's go ahead and give it a shot again. Go ahead and just refresh the whole thing because it seemed to kind of be flaking out. Oh, jeez. Look how quick that is. Maybe I had it good to go already. Knows that it's PowerShell. Oh, nice. Yeah, this is definitely way better than mine. Oh, the generic groups. User. Wow, wow, wow. That is fantastic. Ooh, and the Windows Forms show message box. All right, this is pretty cool. Let's give this a shot. This looks great. Way better than mine. Also, how long would that have taken me to write it? All right, I do want to look it over. I always am leery, as I've said throughout this whole course, of just going out there and finding random stuff. So let's go ahead and augment this for what we want it to do. Let's go with the Hogwarts.org. We can leave that password. That's fine. Group principles, account management group principle. Okay, so this is interesting. It's actually using the new object commandlet. It's not using new AD user. Huh. Let's go ahead and change these houses too. Well, I don't know. Kind of want to give it a shot. Let's give it a save. Let's go ahead and give it a run, see what it does. Dude, all right. Funnily enough, you know what I forgot to do? Just not copy that? Oh no, I did the whole thing. Yeah, it never shows the form. So you kind of have to know that. Just name it form. All right. Yep. Hey, that script. But if you didn't know that you needed to do show dialogue, it wouldn't have worked. Um, yeah. Ooh, I don't see our button. Create user button, add click. That's interesting. All right, what's different about my button over here? Now Windows that forms a button. It does do the size differently. Hmm. Let's see if we can't. Oh, no, no, that's not even the issue. Hold on. The control is never added. You'll notice. Yeah, never gave us the control needed to be added. Um, that would make more sense why it's not visible, not the other thing. Okay. again, knowing how the Windows forms actually work. All right, run. There's our create user button. All right. We can't add a Ron Weasley. Now, actually, too, we're not. I don't know where it's going to put it. There's no path to find. It's actually just using a command line I'm not really super familiar with. See where it puts Ron, and we can go from there. It's out too. User created successfully. Okay. Cannot call a method with a null valued expression. Or so it's not liking the user. 65 obviously wouldn't save it. And exception calling save with 0 arguments. Okay. All right. So this is where I'm like, all right, this is kind of not really working out for me. This is where ChatGPT gets kind of weird, right? So let's go back. Specify what commandlet we're using. You type this piece of it. All right, we're going to specify the commandlet we want to use. And look at it go. There we go. See, it's kind of doing it more the way I was doing it earlier. Ooh, yeah, I didn't break out my account password. I guess I could have done that secure string thing like that. Path, OU. Oh, see, it gives me my OU. Stopped mid commandlet. Right at the end. Did it detect that it was PowerShell again? That's pretty cool. Now, that said, it did make a Ron Weasley user, I think. Well, no, actually, I don't think it did because it complained about that at the end. All right, let's squeegee this. Just want to start fresh. And we will change our path. Does not set a user principal name. HSWW. We'll do students. And I hope you feel like you're learning here still, guys. The reality of using ChatGPT. Yeah, I'm going to pop this out here. I don't know what it was trying to do. Probably, I would think an out file. It does add the button this time. And that may have just been it stopping where it didn't add this stuff. Now I'm thinking about it. It's not that I'm wondering if I had the plus version of ChatGPT, if that would have worked. We'll do house, dude. I called it house combo box. I love that. Oh, yeah. Get our pluses in here. All right. Not going to construct the user. Oh, it is doing a substring. So it is doing first initial, last name. It's not putting it to lower. Again, I didn't tell it to. I think it's pretty cool that it suspected that this was the way to do it. Um, and this show message box is something I normally use too. Let's give it a run. Okay, cool. So I made it about the same dimensions actually. Uh, oh, what did it try to do? Oh, so it assumed. I think we're good here. Notice too that it used a splat. That's something we went over in Unit 2. No, Unit 1 actually was splatting. Parameters in this format and then passed them to the commandlet that way. But the issue is right here. It assumed we had a group named after the combo box, which would be fair to assume, right? It's like, hey, you're probably trying to add a group, right? So let's go ahead and see. Ooh, did not add. Add onto Gryffindor. It did create Ron, so let's see where it put him. Oh, you know what did it? Got to refresh. Classic AD lesson. All right, cool. So it did set these values it said it was going to set. Ooh, didn't give him a login name. Oh, it did for pre. Oh, yeah. See, this is where it didn't set the user principal name, which is something I called out. And then also, I don't like that. So maybe we'll do this to fix it. There you go. I don't know that the user principal name is actually set, though. Oh, it is. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good. I mean, geez. So just by getting a little bit more specific with it, and that's probably a good lesson just with using the chat GPT, right? The chat GPT. Gosh, yeah, you got to just be specific. And it's not something you would think, right? You wouldn't think it wouldn't use new AD user, but it just didn't the first time. But our second script down here, was pretty good to go. So, I mean, it even did our Harry Potter examples, named everything cleanly. Yeah, gave us some messages. Didn't finish generating again, which is why I think you need to upgrade to Plus if you're using this a lot, just to get those complete quality responses. But yeah, wow, really good though for just writing code for free for you. Well, I think that's about it for this lesson. Really good time. I could play with this all. I know other PowerShell engineers out there love doing this as well. So play with this all day. Well, thanks so much, you guys. We'll see you in the next unit.